Then Bob and I will be back at Channel 2 News at 6.
See you at 6. On the desert today, a vast array of Allied tanks and armored personnel carriers. The U.S. military says that retreating Iraqis are so confused by the order of battle, they do not know where to look next. This is the other great crowd on the desert floor. More than 30,000 Iraqi soldiers have now surrendered. Kuwait, it seems, was not worth fighting for.
From ABC, this is a special edition of World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. When Lieutenant General Thomas Kelly, the Director of Operations, was asked at the Pentagon today, where's the fight in the Iraqi army, he said, they have run into the finest army in the world. And he added, 41 days of Allied bombing. With rare exceptions on the battlefield tonight, the Iraqi military qualifies for the description paper tiger. There is fight left in some units, but in almost every case, the U.S. and its allies have apparently accomplished their individual objectives. The war is not over. For one thing, there's been a serious fight between U.S. and Iraqi forces around the Kuwait International Airport. But the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait City has been visited by U.S. Marines, and ABC's Forrest Sawyer has arrived in Kuwait City as well. We talked to him less than an hour ago. Forrest, you've been in Kuwait City for several hours now. What's your strongest impression?
That the city is absolutely deserted, so it appears. I am told that there are a number of Kuwaitis who are inside their homes. They have been afraid to come out now, and they have been told by Kuwaiti resistance members to remain inside their homes until the city is absolutely secure by Saudi and American forces. For now, it is a ghost town that has been torn apart by the Iraqi forces.
Now, you've obviously met up with the Kuwaiti resistance. Tell us about them.
Well, they have been here for a long time. I am standing, Peter, on the roof of a Kuwaiti resistance member's home. This is a secure place for us. In one of the rooms, he has piled up sugar and detergent, a number of things that they pass out to people. The Kuwaiti resistance has been hard at work here, though they are a small number. And we went to one of their hideouts, I guess you might say, which is a basement of a suburban home. There they had 18 prisoners from Iraq, many of whom said that one of the reasons that they decided to give up, in fact, one of the biggest reasons, was because they had been bombed so heavily by the Allies.
So is the Kuwaiti resistance in charge of the city?
I guess as far as anybody is in charge, you could say that. One of our crew actually drove by some Iraqi soldiers who were still armed and tried to wave them down and make them stop. They quickly moved on. When I asked about our own security and their security when we are here, whether that caused a problem, he said, well, they used to be the policemen and we were the thieves, and now we are the policemen and they are the thieves.
Have you actually then seen evidence of Iraqis still in the streets in any fashion whatsoever?
Well, I haven't, but as I say, my crew was out driving around and drove directly by them. They were armed, they tried to stop them, and they kept moving by.
In the several hours you've been there, any signs of actual fighting?
We have seen a dead Iraqi soldier who was just on the outskirts of town, but for the most part, we are told by the Kuwaiti resistance here that overnight, the Iraqi soldiers, perhaps on some signal, piled into Kuwaiti vehicles and headed out of town. They believe that they went north. And so while they were soldiers one day, the very next day, they were simply gone.
Aside from the damage that has been done by the Allied bombing campaign, what evidence is there that the Iraqis have cut and run so?
Considerable evidence, Peter. There are caches of weapons that have been simply left standing. At the hideout that our crew visited, they were piled up right there where the Kuwaitis were able to show them. And at a police station that I visited, equally large caches of weapons. Those were heavy ammunition and rifles, all sorts of things that had simply been left while they disappeared. In fact, tanks have been left sitting in the middle of the street while they ran away.
Tell us a little more about the Iraqi prisoners. Have you had a chance to talk to them?
I did talk to them. In fact, I talked with 13 prisoners who were kept in a cell at a Kuwaiti police station that had been used as a headquarters for the Iraqis. And they said that they hated Saddam, that they had been forced to be here, that they were very hungry, they were very tired, and they were very glad that for them at least, all of this is over.
I get the sense you've managed to travel around the city to some extent. How widely? For example, have you been over to the embassy at all?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did go to the U.S. Embassy. There is no one there. However, U.S. Special Forces, a U.S. Special Forces team of about 10 men was there. They were told to move to the Saudi Arabian embassy, where they joined a Saudi Arabian Special Forces team. Neither of those teams has been allowed to go into their respective embassies. That is to take place at a later time. The Americans had a flag that they could have flown over the embassy, but they did not. They are waiting over the embassy right now. A flag is flying. I have seen it. I do not know whether it's an American flag or another one. The same, I can say, for the Saudi Arabian embassy. Some flags are there. Which they are, I don't know.
What other evidence have you come upon of U.S. forces actually in the city?
That is all of the evidence I have come upon of U.S. forces. As for Saudi forces, I saw an armored personnel carrier that was tracking by, I guess, about 50 yards from where I was standing with an Egyptian, Lebanese, and an Indian group of families, about 6 of them. They were the first people we had come across, and I have never seen such jubilation and exhilaration as seeing people come in from the outside in my entire life, Peter.
Tell me more about that.
This was the first place that we drove in, and we passed all of these burned out vehicles and empty stores that had been burned, debris scattered everywhere. We saw a light over in a deserted building. They began to shout something at us. I asked, "Who are you?" And they said, "We are Egyptians, we are Lebanese, and we're glad you're here." They welcomed us into their home, and actually in front of our cameras began shouting and dancing and being delirious at the fact that their long 7-month nightmare had come to an end.
Now, how do the Kuwaitis, I think I know the answer to this, but how do the Kuwaitis feel at being liberated, those you've come across?
They are equally exuberant. One rather telling phrase, the man whose house this is, as a matter of fact, said to me, "We went to sleep Iraqis, and when we awoke, we were Kuwaitis again." I don't believe that they've seen a happier day in their lives.
One of the reasons Forrest looks like that is because it is the middle of the night in Kuwait City. He looks green on your screen because he's being shot with what we call a night scope, so they don't have to use lights because it's still a fairly potentially dangerous situation. At any rate, in just 24 hours, there have been some dramatic changes, as you can see there, and also in what the military calls the dynamics of the battlefield. For one thing, advance elements of both U.S. and British forces are said to have swept across Iraq in the direction of Basra, all the way to the Euphrates River. That should effectively trap Iraq's Republican Guards, who were fanned out along the Kuwaiti-Iraqi frontier. French forces are right next to them, in part to serve as a blocking force lest any Iraqi elements try to attack from the north. In Kuwait itself, the 1st and 2nd Marine Divisions, which drove north across the Saudi border, have now turned east to converge on Kuwait City itself. And finally, on a broad front all across the Kuwaiti frontier, from the coast to the border with Iraq, other Marines are advancing with units from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar. An American colonel on the battlefield said, "Iraqi troops are coming out all over the place with their hands up. It is incredible." But that does not mean that all Iraqi troops are giving up without a fight. Here's ABC's Bill Rediker.
The Iraqi army may be retreating, but it is firing on its way out.
We have seen no indication that they are laying down their weapons and walking or getting back to the Iraq border. Quite the opposite.
As they drive north to encircle Republican Guard positions and then destroy Iraq's best forces, the Allies claim they have destroyed 2,000 tanks since the war began and defeated 21 Iraqi divisions. That's a force of more than 200,000 soldiers, mostly infantry, but still roughly half of Iraq's army in Kuwait.
We're not here to try to kill the Iraqi soldiers. We're here to try to get the terrain and free Kuwait back up.
While Marine tanks stormed north and fought a pitched battle near the international airport in Kuwait City, attack helicopters and A-10 tank killers leapfrogged ahead to hit Republican Guard artillery and tanks near the Iraqi border. This pilot said he destroyed a dozen tanks in 3 missions.
It's the biggest 4th of July show you've ever seen. And to see those tanks just boom, and more stuff just keeps spewing out of them, and the shells flying on the ground, and they just become white hot.
Iraqi bunkers, some loaded with military equipment, were blown up by Army airborne units.
I don't think we should just call it quits now. We've really been moving in. We've had a lot of success.
Earlier, Iraqi soldiers emerged from the holes. Some of them had been dug in for 6 months and endured constant aerial bombardment for the past 5 weeks. Their strain gave way to pleas of mercy as they kissed the hand of an armed Marine public affairs officer who tried to calm them down. Field commanders today said they were losing track of how many Iraqis they had taken prisoner. At least 30,000 had been rounded up by late today, but the number continued to grow. Late today, it began to rain, and that could delay critical fuel and ammunition from reaching frontline Allied forces. At this Army airborne base, all supply flights were canceled.
We've had visibilities that have gone down to about a half a mile visibility, and with that we've been forecasting light to occasional moderate turbulence, which of course is going to have an effect on aircraft. So are the visibilities and so are the gusty winds.
Military sources also warned that a logistical logjam near the front could slow down the Allied campaign. Support units are reportedly having problems in keeping up with fast-moving troops and armor. Tonight, Central Command will not speculate on when the war may be over. As one general said, we will continue to attack, attack, attack. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
Saddam Hussein tried to end the war earlier today. He was on the radio overnight saying that the withdrawal of all his troops from Kuwait would be completed by tonight. He was wrong. President Bush responded by saying Saddam is not interested in peace, but only to regroup and fight another day. At the White House, ABC's Britt Hume.
4 days ago, the president prepared a statement in the Oval Office, much as he did today. In it, he offered to hold off a ground assault if Saddam would accept all UN resolutions and withdraw from Kuwait in a week. But that was then, and this is now, and Saddam's order to his forces to retreat did him no good today.
Saddam's most recent speech is an outrage. He is not withdrawing. His defeated forces are retreating. He is trying to claim victory in the midst of a rout. And he is not voluntarily giving up Kuwait. The coalition will therefore continue to prosecute the war with undiminished intensity.
The president got a briefing on the progress of the war today from Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Powell, who told him elite Republican Guard units in southern Iraq have been trapped, cut off, and cannot escape with their armor. Powell also said armed Iraqi units attempting to leave Kuwait are under withering Allied attack. The president reacted to that briefing in a speech at nearby Fort Myer later.
We are not only on schedule, we're ahead of schedule. And no commander-in-chief has ever been so proud of America's men and women in uniform.
In the faces of the president's men today, you could see that, as one White House official put it, they were beginning to believe the news from the front. That was during a ceremony for visiting Colombian President Gaviria. Afterward, the focus returned to the Gulf and the task of dealing with a post-war Iraq the administration regretfully assumes will still be under the control of Saddam Hussein. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
There's a lot more. We'll continue in just a moment.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Dairy Ease.
When 1 in 4 adults looks at dairy food, their stomach says stop, say no now, or pay later. Antacids aren't made for this problem, called lactose intolerance. But new Dairy Ease is. It's not an antacid, but a natural nutritional supplement that helps comfortable digestion of ice cream, cheese, and milk. Now enjoy dairy food as naturally as everyone else with pleasant-tasting, chewable new Dairy Ease.
Do you have a cold?
Yeah.
Here are 2 cold medicines. One relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9.
Why?
That's me all the way down the list. Muscle ache, congestion, general body ache, headache.
You chose Dristan over Sudafed.
I am shocked.
Would you try Dristan?
Yes, I would.
How do you feel now?
Night and day difference, 100% better.
Dristan relieves 9 tough cold symptoms.
I love Dristan, yeah. It's great.
Almost 3 days after the ground war began, another reflection of how well it has gone for the U.S. military. Yesterday, the casualty figures were 4 killed in action in the ground battle and 21 wounded. The figures today, 4 killed and 21 wounded. Nobody wounded or killed today. The difference is, of course, that Scud attack on eastern Saudi Arabia on Dhahran yesterday. The latest figures on that are 21 killed and 100 wounded. Now, to talk about the shape of battle, we're joined by our 2 military analysts, Tony Cordesman in Washington, and in Boston, former Marine General, retired Marine General Bernard Traynor. First to you, Tony Cordesman. Fairly simple question. You hear it from the military today. Is it over? And if it isn't over, what's the threat yet to come?
No, Peter, it's not over. I think that we've heard it again and again that we have to see how this ends, and it will end not in Kuwait or in Kuwait City, but somewhere in Iraq, along the Euphrates, and somewhere near Basra. If we can choke them off, the rest of those 21 divisions, which still have some effectiveness, it is ended in a military sense because Saddam Hussein has no air assets, no meaningful missile assets, and no real army assets that he can bring to bear once we have destroyed or effectively forced the rest to surrender.
General Traynor, variation on the same question to you. If the fight is carried to Iraq and Kuwait has fallen, is there any way that Saddam Hussein can recoup?
Not really. If we go into Iraq after him, even the forces that he has available to him in Iraq that would be torn to pieces as they'd come south to try to oppose us. So if we went into Iraq, he couldn't militarily stop us.
Other than mopping up, then, in your view, is it essentially over?
Yes.
General Traynor, Tony Cordesman, thank you both very much. We'll be back in just a moment.
Over 10 years ago, in restaurants across America, one instant coffee did something no other instant has ever done.
If this is instant, we just bought ourselves another coffee.
We've never had instant coffee this good.
People who thought they were drinking fresh brewed coffee were secretly switched to Folgers Crystals. Real people, not actors.
I mean, it just tastes like it's been brewed. This would wake me up.
Try it yourself. Write to this address and get a free jar of Folgers Crystals, the only instant that dares to make believers out of fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
I'll drink to that.
Ounce for ounce, can you mix a bowl of cereal with more vitamin and mineral nutrition than Total?
Sure. Well, add some of this, and we'll sprinkle some of these.
Sorry, all those put together don't add up to an equal amount of Total. For all this nutrition, nothing can top Total. Nothing.
Wow.
What do you call a car that has learned to use the wind? A car designed to settle in when you race into it head on and stabilize when it buffets you from the side. Road and Track called it one of the 10 best cars in the world. But it is probably better known as the Infiniti Q45.
When I say home by 11, I mean 11.
But, Daddy...
Another Maalox moment. Medical fact. There's no faster therapy known for your stomach acid than Maalox.
I just worried.
Maalox. No faster therapy known.
The United Nations Security Council met into the early hours of the morning and then again this afternoon. Some of the 15 members have been pushing for a ceasefire that would let Iraqi troops retreat safely from Kuwait. So far, they're not making any progress. Here's ABC's David Ensor.
American and allied diplomats at the UN are blocking efforts by Cuba, Yemen, and others to get a Security Council vote on a call for a ceasefire. The allies want promises in writing from Saddam Hussein first.
There has to be a very clear, formal, precise, written acceptance of these other resolutions, of all the 12 resolutions.
That would commit Iraq to recognizing the Emir of Kuwait's government, to acknowledging liability for damage done, and to conceding there may be trials for war crimes committed by Iraqi troops. An angry Iraqi ambassador charges that the allies want to shoot Iraqis in the back as they withdraw and want to destroy Iraq.
They would not be happy to see a ceasefire or total withdrawal, a peaceful withdrawal from Kuwait. They are not interested in Kuwait or in peace or, for that matter, resolution of Security Council.
The Iraqi was so bitter at last night's closed meeting that he called Kuwait's ambassador the dwarf on my right. Don't gloat, he said, adding that the Kuwaitis' presence reminded him of a joke about the son of a donkey.
If any insult comes from Iraq, that is a compliment for me because, I mean, Iraq has been disgraced in the whole world.
Insults like that are unusual in a place where polite diplomatic language is the norm.
The anger on both sides here shows how difficult it is going to be to make peace in the Gulf. David Ensor, ABC News at the United Nations.
In a moment, ABC's Bill Blakemore in Baghdad. We'll be back.
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. 1, the minivans. We invented them. 2, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
Before I even consider taking a medicine, I have to feel good about it. So before I switched from Tylenol to Advil, I did my homework. I found that doctors have recommended Advil over 50 million times, and that over 100 million people have tried it. That includes me. And you know, 2 Advil work better on my really tough headaches than 2 extra-strength Tylenol. Hey, I don't take just any medicine, but I do take Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
In most commercials for Choice Hotels International, someone famous pops out of a suitcase. But the star of this commercial is the Choice Yellow Ribbon Fund, created for the American Red Cross. To support our troops and their families, we're donating $5 for every reservation made and used through our special 800 number at a Quality, Comfort, Clarion, Sleep, Roadway, Friendship, or Econo Lodge hotel. The Choice Yellow Ribbon Fund. Call 1-800-4-CHOICE. You'll be doing your part for those who are doing theirs.
Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm having a dinner party and I've run out of coffee.
Come in.
Thank you.
Would Taster's Choice be too good for your guests?
Oh, I think they could get used to it.
Could they?
Yes.
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Have you met your new neighbor yet? Oh, I've popped in for coffee.
Waiting for the war to end in Baghdad. Once again today, the Iraqi people listened to the words of Saddam Hussein and heard a very different assessment of the war than the rest of us. ABC's Bill Blakemore is still there.
People in the center of Baghdad this morning had heard the early radio announcement that Iraq was withdrawing from Kuwait, and they were hopeful the war might now end.
We hope peace come as easy, as quickly as possible.
And with Iraqi dignity intact.
30 countries against only one country. I think we made good job.
Then at midday, Iraqis listened as Saddam Hussein himself said Iraqi forces were withdrawing and addressed Iraqi soldiers in the past tense, saying God was with you in your fight and you were brave. At about 2:30 p.m., we thought we heard more heavy Allied bombing on Baghdad. But at least some of that turned out to be thunder from a passing rainstorm, sweeping through Baghdad on the wind which has been blowing steadily from the south for 2 days now. This wind has brought with it billows of dark, greasy mist which smells of oil. This new added worry for people here has left a sooty grime on outdoor surfaces. The rainwater collecting in the bottom of this hotel's swimming pool, which was green until yesterday, has turned black. The air seems a bit colder, and people here in Baghdad are wondering if it's because so little light has filtered through from the sun for 2 days now. People here still have no way of telling whether their afternoon has been turned into night by bombed oil refineries or ignited oil wells, or both. But concerns about this extraordinary air pollution took second place this afternoon in the minds of Baghdad's residents. Primary concerns here are about the fate of Iraqi soldiers and what Iraq's government will do next in this war. And repeated air attacks on Baghdad tonight kept telling people here that it's still not over. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Baghdad.
That smoke and oily black rain, apparently from the burning oil fields in Kuwait, fell over Turkey today, nearly 600 miles away. Local officials advise residents to wash their fruits and vegetables. We'll have more news in a moment.
I swim. I jog. I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation. When it happens to me, I take this little pill. It's X-Lax. Surprised?
More people choose X-Lax than any other laxative. Today's X-Lax gives you a choice.
Extra gentle pills when you need a little help, regular pills when you need a little more. Today's X-Lax, for regular people who sometimes aren't.
In the midday sun, a gentle breeze, the embrace of white eyes, remember these, the touch, the feel, the fabric of our lives, the touch, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
Same as in Motrin in non-prescription strength.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug.
Did you ever notice that a lot of pain relievers seem to be saying the same thing? Well, if you want the same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin, wouldn't it just be simpler to ask for Motrin IB? Non-prescription strength Motrin IB. You can't buy a more effective pain reliever without a prescription. Motrin IB. Accept no alternatives.
It's the middle of the night now in Kuwait City. In the next segment of our broadcast, we're going to have more with Forrest Sawyer there. In Saudi Arabia today, workers continue to go through the rubble left by the deadliest attack of the war, the Scud missile, which hit a barrack for American troops last night, killed, as we said a little earlier, 28 and left 100 wounded. The victims were not frontline troops, but support and supply personnel. Among the dead, at least 2 from the 14th Quartermaster Detachment out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. They had not been sent to fight, but to handle water purification. ABC's John McKenzie is in Pennsylvania tonight.
Ever since the Civil War, the people of Greensburg have sent troops into battle. Today they learned, as they have before, some would not be coming home.
I was really shocked, because I thought the Patriots were doing their job, and if they could stop them in Israel, they should have stopped them in Saudi Arabia.
There's an attachment to everybody that's had to go over there. You know, it's like, hey, those are our people. You know, they're fighting for our rights.
Here in this town of 30,000, some were anxious, others frustrated today, waiting to hear just who had been hurt and who had been spared.
When the 14th Detachment headed for the Middle East, people here admit they knew there were dangers. But they also figured this is a Quartermaster Corps. It's stationed in the rear. It should be relatively safe.
You're going into a hostile environment. Nobody is safe in a hostile environment. Combat is combat, whether it be on the front lines or whether it be in the rear.
A month ago, the 69 reservists, including 13 women, were sent to Fort Lee, Virginia to train in water purification methods. Reservists like 19-year-old Edwin McCauley.
I am nervous a little bit, but I'm just taking day by day to make it easier on myself.
McCauley and the rest of the detachment had been in the Gulf only 6 days when the Scud missile hit their barracks. Last night, he called his parents in Greensburg to say he had been cut, but was otherwise all right.
It was a very emotional conversation. He had gone through one hell of an emotional situation.
This evening, Army officials say it could be days before this reserve unit and this town learn the full extent of their loss. John McKenzie, ABC News, Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
In a moment, when our special edition of World News Tonight continues on most of these stations, we'll be talking again with ABC's Forrest Sawyer in Kuwait City, and we'll have a report on a major tank battle for control of the Kuwait City airport.
Tonight on Nightline, Kuwait City is free. What did the Iraqis destroy? What atrocities did they commit? Forrest Sawyer in Kuwait City, Diane Sawyer in New York, tonight.
And now, the news continues with Channel 2 News at 6.
Good evening, I'm Ann Holt.
And I'm Bob Mueller. In our news tonight, Iraqi troops are on the run. Saddam Hussein calls it a withdrawal. The Allies call it a retreat. And the Kuwaitis